Hello, everybody. Welcome yet to a new edition of the East African Perspective, the podcast where we look at East African news and we look at the world from the East African perspective. I'm with my co-host, Benjamin Massanjufu. How are you doing, Benjamin?
I'm good, Thomas. How have you been?
I'm very good, very good. Much better, apparently, than in Dar es Salaam, where we wake up this morning hearing that there has been riots. Yesterday was the day off. It was
they had the
re-elections.
elections yesterday.
What's your take on this?
I was surprised that instead of the youth going out to vote, they decided to heed to the calls of the activists, and they went and had protests instead in Dar es Salaam. So most likely the voting numbers in Dar es Salaam will not reflect the true picture. Normally, governments that are in power all over the world don't win urban centers. Would have expected that, but since the youth didn't go out to vote, then we don't know how the results are going to be. They decided to go out and protest.
It seems to me that the only numbers to really look at this election is the participation rate, voters turnout. How many people have decided to go and vote for these elections?
We shouldn't expect a high turnout because the trend has been going down.
Last election was just around 50%. You think we can go lower than 50%?
Yeah, I think it is going to be lower than 50% because it is pretty much a decided election already. Everybody knows who is going to win. Even if there are very many people on the ballot, very many women, both running mates and also running against the incumbent Samia Suluhu. But we don't expect very many people to go out.
We're going to speak about that with our next guest next week as well. That is going to tell us about repressions and how human rights and elections functions in Tanzania.
So
and Kenya.
elections have been happening across the continent.
That's very true.
Just next year, we're going to have one happen here in Uganda at the beginning of the year. But I understand you have been following about what was happening in West Africa. We did see Cameroon and Ivory Coast.
Last year, we had a lot of great news from East Africa. 2 years ago, that's where the putschist leaders have come to power in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, which gave a new perspective to the regions. Senegal, just last year, also got a new prime minister. That was coming from the opposition. The opposition won the election. So those were all interesting change, right? This year, it seems like a change is done. No more change.
No more change.
President Alassane Ouattara is going for his fourth term. He has pledged the war that is only going to do 2, but he has done 4. And he got re-elected with, wait for it.
How?
89%, 89.77%. This is 10 points less than Kagame in Rwanda. I don't know if he's disappointed. Just to remind our voters, the big guys in the game, Laurent Gbagbo and Tidjane Cham, were not participating to the elections.
Yeah, but I understand Gbagbo's wife did run.
Gbagbo's wife did run, but she doesn't have the same popularity as her husband.
Okay.
And then in neighboring, not exactly neighboring, but still in the same regions.
French West Africa.
No, not French West Africa. That has been done since 1960, I believe. But since 1982, Paul Biya is in power in Cameroon, is now running 92 years old, which means that he got a new mandate. With only 53%. 53% of voters, opposition leaders.
The last time he was in power, the one he has just concluded, he spent it most in a hospital in France.
Definitely in Switzerland. It seems to enjoy the Continental Hotel of Geneva more than France. What I think is important for audience to take about this, because obviously those were expected results. There has been riots also in Cameroon happening in Douala. Yeah. There has been also some manifestation in March,
it is sort of a trend. Riots happen.
Yes.
Whenever an election is happening, go after an election.
Yes. But the point is that when you see what we call gerontocrat, because they are so old that they can't very govern. Like we have seen in Algeria, we have this Bouteflika. What you really see is the coordination of a class that is established and have an interest into Paul Biya continuing to run again. Paul Biya himself, I believe, have little interest into continuing this. The very first evidence I would bring is that he can't even discipline his own daughter, saying they won't vote for him. So it seems to me that there is a ruling class in Cameroon that has an interest into Paul Biya continuing over, even if he doesn't really govern. He can't govern with his age.
You are saying he's not the one governing.
What I'm saying is that he rely on a class that is not 92 years old, a class that of people that probably in the 70s.
Could that be the case for all African leaders above 70 years?
I don't think so, but I believe that for Cameroon, it is the case, and it was the case with Abdelaziz Bouteflika of Algeria, where the generals of the army, those that participated to the civil war of the 90s, sized the army, sized the state, and ruled the state, right? So the state of Cameroon is ruled. It is not terribly worse than 10 years ago, for instance, because there is people. And one evidence of that is the last AFCON, right?
AFCON, yes.
The
They managed to
AFCON,
pull that off.
They pulled that off. They pulled off the strings, and then suddenly, like, we had 6 stadiums being built when we couldn't build for 5 or 6 years, right? So when those guys decide to do something, something is done. So they decided to re-elect Paul Biya. Paul Biya got re-elected.
Okay, so going away from West Africa, I want you to come back to another French-speaking country in Africa, Madagascar.
Yeah.
We did see protests there that ended up hosting a president, and then the military took over.
Yeah, just to remind our audience, like a few weeks ago, we have had the Gen Z that took over a government, right, in Nepal.
In Nepal, yes.
Then in Morocco, the very same Gen Z asked for more dignity. They asked for dignity. They said, we don't want stadiums, we want hospitals, we want people to have dignity, and especially to give birth with dignity, right? In Madagascar, the same phenomenon happens. The only difference is that they managed to get rid of Andry Rajoelina, the president that was in power since at least 15 years by then.
So for the last 2-3 years, we have seen young people, the Gen Zs, take to the streets. In Kenya, in the United States, we saw university encampments that ended when Trump took over. Well, what does that tell you?
No, it seems like there is new way of mobilizing that power doesn't know how to handle yet, right? However, we should not be confused about the fact that this Gen Z is not highly politicized. They are reactional. They react to what they see, and that's why
what they need, what is not around.
For me, this generation is calling for 2 things. We spoke about that before, but the first thing is dignity. They ask for dignity. They don't like when the dignity of their parents, of their grandparents is being like eroded. They don't like to see that. The dignity is very important. And the second point is sovereignty. People want sovereignty. They want like to make their own decision, and they don't want foreign actors to make their decisions.
Does that mean that generation is better informed, better exposed, better educated? Because you can't ask for those things if you're not educated.
I think this, you guys should tell us that on the comments what you think about it. But what it does mean, what is very key and very important, is that when a generation, a full-on generation, mobilize for this question of dignity and sovereignty, it works. It works. We have seen it in Madagascar. The president of Madagascar was French since 2014. He held a French passport, which was totally unconstitutional. The constitution of Madagascar is very clear about the fact that it's very clear about the fact that if you hold a foreign passport, you cannot hold missions and mandates, right? So Andry Rajoelina, as you said, was the former DJ.
Yes.
He was put in power by a coup, and he left with a coup. But the main point is that he became French in the middle of his mandate.
It doesn't make sense. What is the criteria for becoming French? How does he become French?
He became French in 2014, apparently, according to what he says. But the point is that he was hidden. We didn't know about it. We heard about it like the day he left Madagascar with a French plane ordered by the French army. So the French took out Andry Rajoelina outside of Madagascar with their own army to protect the men, right? To protect their men. And so when we speak of a Gen Z that look for sovereignty, that's what we're talking about. Before that mobilization, we thought, oh, maybe they don't like their president, they will mix to another president. But actually what they very did was they kick out a president that we now discover was foreign, was supported by foreign forces, and is now not even Malgache anymore. Like the previous president of Madagascar is not Malgache anymore because the constitution applied the law, and the law says you can't hold 2 passports. So now he's purely French, 100% French, not even Malgache anymore.
From the explanation, I'm seeing France, actually, since we started speaking. Should I say hypocrisy? France is all over in African matters. France. How is he becoming France? Why are these funny things happening in French colonies? How do you have a 90-something-year-old rule, win an election
He won in his 30s. You know, like 10, 15 years, we have this idea that if a new generation, if young people take power, things will get better.
Yes.
So he was part of this move, right? He was
Yes,
part of
yes,
this
he
move.
was young. He was.
He was young, he was a DJ, he was popular in Antananarivo.
I'm worried. Very many promising young leaders are upcoming across the continent.
This is one thing we need to be careful about, because we are in the same show right now talking about very old leaders, such
Yes.
as Alassane Ouattara, such as Paul Biya. But in the same time, we are also saying that when you put young, weak leader in charge, your sovereignty is not protected. Your sovereignty is not
I
protected.
feel like coming back home, but it will be a discussion for another time, because we also have young leaders aspiring to take over, and not only in Uganda, in South Africa, in Zimbabwe.
We need young leaders that have curriculum, that have studied, that understand the situation. Maybe like they have worked in institutions before, but not international institution, local institution.
Local
they have
institutions.
to prove. But the point is now that this generation is slowly but surely moving. Those francophone leaders are all slowly but surely moving. Paul Biya and Alassane Ouattara are still there. But for how long? For how long? 10 more years? Maybe 5 more years? Max? So they will be replaced by new leaders that will have at the core of the project, like the agenda of dignity and sovereignty.
I want to ask you something. What is with France and Africa?
It's you know, like there's something that I've been reading on social media
Yes.
that made me laugh a lot. It was saying that it was an East African tweeters or X, sorry.
It's Twitter. It will always be
We
Twitter.
can still say Twitter, right? It was saying that France is a funny country because they keep saying that they can't get back African art,
Yes.
which they stole at colonial time,
Yes.
to their rightful owners in Africa, whatever West Africa or Madagascar, or even Central Africa, in Congo, for instance.
Yes.
They say that they can't give it back to African museum because they can't protect them.
They say we can't protect our own
They say
things
you can't protect your own art.
when we just saw a French museum being robbed in daylight.
Daylight on a Sunday morning. On a Sunday morning, not even late. The French don't even wake up that early to rob their own museums, right? 4 men,
So they are,
7 million
how can we trust those people to keep our
7
artifacts
minutes.
if they
7
can't
minutes.
keep their own?
They cannot keep their own art, and they come to tell people that they can't keep their own.
Anyway, that is France for you.
They should stay humble. They should stay humble.
They
and-
should, and
And they should realize that it is not about protection. It is not about security. The real question
that's the same
is about
attitude.
sovereignty.
That is the same attitude France has over African politics and leaders, but we all know they can't do anything.
We can't expect much from
Yeah.
French leadership. when it comes to
Especially, we
Africa.
can't expect
We can't expect
what
much.
benefits Africa.
Definitely.
Anyway, Thomas,
Yes.
last week we were not here. You were
Yes.
away, you were in Goma, you had taken our invitation.
Yes.
We were trying to get some of the M23 members
Yes.
or people in Congo to come to the East African perspective. How is Goma?
So Goma is doing interestingly well, I would say, but it depends on the perspective. So yeah, last week I went to Goma from Kampala in order to give our proposal to Alliance pour le Fleuve Congo people, leaders, and M23 leaders.
Yes.
Right? So I managed to engage with some of them, but also like to observe that city. And you know, when you arrive from Kampala, the busy Kampala, with its border going left, right, centers, with
Yes.
so much young people, like so much life in the streets.
Yes.
When you arrive in Goma, you find everything really organized. It's surprisingly organized.
M23 Goma.
M23 Goma, yes.
Okay.
We have to M23 Goma.
You are talking about M23
M23
Goma.
Gomas is highly disciplined, right?
Yes.
So they have managed to discipline the borders. Now, no border can take 2 people or 3 people, right? Every border have to take 1 person, which is good for the border themselves because now they make more businesses. But for the customers, maybe
Yeah,
not
it's
so good.
not so good.
But the border played the game because the government has imposed on them that they buy a yellow jacket, right? That was $20. So those people didn't want to do that. So the government, the M23 governance have said, no, listen, we take this out. But in exchange, this is what you're going to do. What you find is a very disciplined like country. You find like the emergence of things that you see normally in Kigali or in Gisenyi.
Meanwhile, Thomas, before you continue, M23 is considered, it is a rebel group.
It is a rebel group.
Yeah, fighting the Congolese
State.
state.
Fighting
And
the-
it has captured this part of Congo,
Yes.
and the place looks organized,
Yes.
secure.
look organized, much more secure. Everyone agree about the fact that security is there, but not secure for everyone. And I think that's one thing we have to distinguish.
Yes.
There's some class of people
Yes.
that succeed, that win in this type of situation,
Like-
others lose.
That happens everywhere.
Exactly. Everywhere when you have regime
Yes.
change, you
Yes.
have some winners and some losers.
Is that regime change? Because
It
they are
is-
controlling part of a country.
It is de facto a regime change, but
Okay.
obviously it is not happening in the national
So
level.
I don't know. Maybe this is a question for another time. Why isn't M23 asking for independence?
So interestingly, I spoke with soldiers, and this question of independence from the Kivu is very East African questions, because people on the ground don't speak to you about it. The question, everyone speak about going to Kinshasa or not going to Kinshasa. And the soldiers I met spoke about going to Kinshasa, and they say, we are not in Kinshasa yet because of politicians. But if it was about politicians, if it was not about politicians,
Who would be in
they would
Kinshasa?
be in Kinshasa already.
So they have the military will to reach Kinshasa, but they are not.
the people on the ground have the willingness to
How
reach
is the
Kinshasa.
administration, municipality?
So
Health,
institution works better because there's no more corruptions. So most people that deal with like institutions such as the municipality, such as the police, they are happy about the fact that they don't have to
Thomas,
pay
now
bribe anymore.
The East African perspective is
Yes.
sounding like we are doing propaganda for him.
We're not doing propaganda for them 23. We went there to invite them to answer all questions.
Yes, and they will be coming to the East African perspective and give their opinion, their side of
As
the
I
story.
said, there's winners and there's losers, right? Who are the losers? The young men.
Yes.
Clearly, young men are targeted. There is a lot of jail within the city where people are being arrested and not delivered. I spoke to a man that got his nephew being taken in the night, and then they had to pay $500 to see the man, just to realize that the man was dead. He's been told they were dead, right? And so they wanted to gather back the body, and they were not given the body, so they had to bury the man without the body, because probably of torture. So there is winners and there is losers. But the city is 25% less people, which means that you breathe better. There's no more traffic. There's less like drama on the streets.
I understand.
People pay more tax.
I understand most people have gone back to their homes. People have gone back to their farmlands. People have left refugee camps.
So that's one of the interesting things they've done. They empty the refugee camp. They say, we don't want more refugee here, or you go in another country, or you go back to where you come from, but there's no reason to have refugee camp. And we're speaking about 800, 600,000 people in those refugee camps. A lot of them were Rwandans that came back to Rwanda. So Rwanda took them in Gisenyi. But the articulations of how they rule.
So I want to ask you a question on what is happening in Goma. A rebel group has taken over territory.
Yes.
They are organizing, administering, and things look
Administrations,
better.
police,
What does
institutions.
that give? Which message does it give to other rebel groups? Or what does it inform the world, especially now that we have Sudan trying to break up the third time? It has already broken up.
Yeah, we have other...
We have seen this story in Goma. We have seen it happen in Somaliland, where part of Somalia has been stable even when the whole of Somalia was failed.
Yeah, definitely.
What does that inform?
So I think it's the same thing that you will find in Somaliland, I would assume. Like, it's a vitrine.
Yes.
It's a vitrine. It is a vitrine for the world. So that's also why they would accept a white journalist, Muzungu journalist.
Yes.
They also accept international press quite easily. Even that have changed a little bit. But at the beginning, they wanted to show. So it's a vitrine. So by showing that Goma is functional and more functional now than it used to be, I say functional, right? I say functional.
Function.
They try to show. They try to hide from what they're doing on the battlefront. And on the battlefront, the battle is heavy. I spoke with some soldiers, as I said. M23 is fighting the Burundian government in the south, around Uvira, and those battles are huge. Those people speak the same language, remember. Burundians and Rwandans are similar, similar language. So they don't even understand why they fight each other. The soldiers said, no, we should not be fighting them. But since they're in front of us, we will fight them and defeat them. But they have said that this is the hardest army they had to defeat. They said the South Africans were
Easier to defeat than the Burundians.
They said the Tanzanian left. They give them ultimatum. They said in 48 hours you leave or you're here. If you there were no more Tanzanians.
Okay, I understand Burundians maybe could be having battle experience from Somalia.
Yeah.
Because they have been in Somalia for a long time and they keep on recycling the troops.
Yeah,
so
but
there is that possibility.
10
And
battalions.
also-
They told me about 10 battalions being present in the east of Congo right now from the Burundian government. Yeah.
Okay, that is a new development.
But you see, when we see Goma, the rebel,
Yes.
controlled by rebels,
Yes.
it doesn't mean that a city like El Fasher in Sudan, which just been taken by RSF,
Yes.
will have the same experience.
It
Have you been
will-
looking at the situation
Yeah,
in
I've been
Sudan?
following what is happening, and I'm disappointed in the United Arab Emirates that he's heavily funding the RSF.
Very heavily
That
funding them.
RSF took over Al Fasher, and we are hearing a completely different story from what we hear in Eastern Congo. They rounded up all men and said these men were in fighting age, and they just decided killing them. They would round up people, and they are massacring. It is basically a massacre there. In a short while, the UN commissions are going to tell us that there is a genocide happening.
Al Fasher was the last city that the government held in Darfur.
Yeah,
correct.
in Darfur.
So now do we have a divide where the west is for RSF of Sudan and the
not
east?
really. They are controlling a huge territory in the east, but they are not controlling the northeast. They are only controlling the border with Libya.
Okay.
Because that is a supply chain route for the gold and also for weapons coming in. But it is sad. We had they killed an MP. She had a community kitchen. She would give out food because they have been in that crisis, and she would have food given out to the community. The moment they got her, they executed her. And they are doing these executions. And we have heard of a report of a soldier killing somebody, picking a phone from their phone, and then texting their mother with a video and telling her, "I've killed your son."
Oh, wow.
So that is what is happening.
Wow.
That is what the RSF is doing.
Is the RSF using the money only to buy weapons and kill civilians, or do they also try to rule like M23 Alliance for Congo is doing?
At the moment, the RSF is sabotaging everything the Sudanese army is doing. When they were going to open the airport in Khartoum, after a long time, the RF sent drones. The RSF has sent drones as far as Port Sudan.
I saw.
All they're after is sabotage. What they are after the moment is not clear anymore.
Is the gold. Have you seen the price of the gold?
It is the gold.
It is the gold.
The UAE that is funding the operations and facilitating their supply chains claims they would prefer to have the RSF in power because the Sudanese military has what they are calling people that want to establish a theocracy, military, an Islamic government.
Islamic
and
government.
UAE is saying they don't want such a government in the region anymore, especially that is headed by fundamentalists.
Okay.
That is the justification they are giving, and they are pouring money in like nothing, like crazy. RSF doesn't have drone pilots. They don't.
No.
So all this technology is coming in from the United Arab Emirates, comes in, and then they're able to bomb.
Drone that Ethiopia is going to start manufacturing, by the way, but from Chinese,
from Chinese
factories and pieces. Yeah. Do you say like what's happening in El Fasher?
Yeah.
What's coming next for Sudanese? Can we see any sort of peace agreement?
No. At the moment, the best solution would be IGAD to come in, and then we do what was done in Somalia. UPDF, maybe South Africa and other countries need to contribute troops to go back and fight these rebels because the RSF are acting like the Al-Shabaab at the moment.
Yeah.
You can't kill a village at will. When you take over territory, you are supposed to administer that territory. Prove to the people that you are a better leader.
That you do
but
better.
Then you kill off
That's not working.
I don't think you can negotiate with
I think
that lot.
I read somewhere that Qatar is getting involved as well, but on the side of the government.
Everybody is involved in Sudan at the moment.
So Qatar is supporting the
Everybody,
government and that Buran?
And the reason why they are doing that is because of Port Sudan.
Okay.
And Port Sudan is, of course, a very, very, very integral to the Red Sea.
Is Port Sudan a DP World? DP World is the Dubai-based company that the Emirates I think
Very many countries and companies have signed agreements to administer Port Sudan. Russia, Turkey.
Yeah. I know in Senegal also.
All these countries want to administer Port Sudan.
Okay.
That is why we are seeing very many players coming in.
By the way, they usually replace French Bolloré.
Yeah.
And that's also interesting to see that
Yeah,
French
the logistic
colonialists are slowly but surely leaving the continent, being replaced by capital coming from Middle East.
But either way, they don't really leave. They just go and act the other side through these multinational companies. That is what they really do. You will find them in those companies again.
Okay.
They have the intelligence, they have the data, they know where to invest, they know which rebel groups to deal with. Because if you're an organization, a company, and you want gold from Sudan, you have to work with RSF. You have to work with people that have military experience, military intelligence of the region.
And I understand that RSF is controlling most of the gold mine right now, and that definitely is strong.
So that is what is happening in Sudan.
And in Ethiopia, what have you seen? Because the conflict was supposed to be done. Tigrayans were supposed to be
there is a peace agreement, but
signed in Pretoria, I believe.
Yes.
Is he standing?
At the moment, the Prime Minister is saying the other side, the TPLF, the Tigray Liberation Front, is violating the peace agreement. They are saying the money that they send to the region, the budget, has been diverted to go and buy weapons.
Okay.
And why are they buying weapons? Most likely to come back and fight the government. And he's also saying they are more...
Benjamin, who would sell weapons to the Tigrayans?
Money.
Who will sell them?
Money.
Yeah, but which power behind it? Give me a name. Give me a name of a country.
He hasn't yet reached that level of naming who the TPLF is dealing with. But given the chaos
Egypt
in Sudan, Egypt has not yet surfaced.
Turkey
hasn't yet surfaced.
Okay.
But
we know they have strong interest in
they have
in
very
the
strong
horn of
interest.
Africa.
And TPLF is just on the border with Sudan. So whoever is selling in Sudan most likely is dealing with the TPLF. Don't forget, Thomas, TPLF ruled Ethiopia for almost 30 years, and they have friends across this region.
No, definitely. That's why I'm asking who is going to finance, because the Chinese like them, American like them.
They were close to everybody in the region.
They were close to everybody in the regions.
So,
Meles Zenawi is one of the most interesting presidents East Africa has had
so
since
you
the
can't,
21st century.
They will get the weapons.
Okay.
So there is that development, and Abiy Ahmed is saying most likely, and he has told the military not to try, because it seems like the military is divided. They are sympathizers with TPLF, and there are threats of a coup in Ethiopia.
Okay, we will look at this. We'll look at this.
Yeah, we shall look at it. And remember, as he's dealing with the TPLF, Eritrea, they are having a bad relationship. Abiy Ahmed and Isaiah Afwerki won the Nobel Peace Prize together, but now they are enemies. And today,
the Peace Prize getting tired.
Today he has been invited, the Eritrean president has been invited to Egypt for a 5-day visit, something like that.
5-day visit in Egypt.
You know what that means.
In the context
of
the Great Renaissance Dam, this is no good.
So you know what
this
means.
This is no good.
Yeah.
We should not underestimate Egypt. We should not underestimate Egypt's power. They have been, and
especially when it comes to the Nile.
And they're becoming more and more important also for America with the Gaza peace agreement.
They have always been important to America.
So we should not underestimate them, but also we should look at a very stable place in the region, which is Djibouti. Djibouti is the most stable place in the region because it is where foreign military presence can stand in East Africa.
It actually, very funny, America and China are sort of contesting for the continent. In Djibouti, they share a military base.
With French?
Yeah.
With Japan and China?
Yeah.
China and the US?
I think the only military base Japan has is in Djibouti.
Is in Djibouti.
Yeah, and there is a development there.
And even for China, I think China doesn't have much military base abroad. At least as we know, officially, they don't have much.
Yeah.
The rest is probably in the
and
Pacific Ocean.
why they all have military bases there is because Djibouti is like the gateway to the Red Sea,
but
the Indian Ocean.
How does that business happen, Benjamin? Like, do you just enter Djibouti?
No. Djibouti is a landlord. Djibouti is a landlord. All these countries pay rent to have their military bases there.
Yes.
And then Djibouti can use the money for its economy, but again for the few.
So when you have such heavy military investment in a foreign country, you need to have stable governance.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And they have decided to make sure their president runs forever, basically because they have removed presidential age limits. I don't know if it's for him or somebody else.
Listen, the president is in his 70s, definitely.
Yeah, it is becoming a trend in East Africa to remove age limit. People can run and rule for as long as they can to provide stability for certain global actors.
Definitely.
So that is what is happening in Djibouti. But it's not the only development in the region.
Kenya definitely.
Kenya is making headlines.
Yes.
West, they are making headlines.
I think that's a conclusion also topic.
Yeah, so G20 is going to happen. Donald Trump said he's not coming.
Yes.
So his vice president will be coming, J.D. Vance. And
J.D. Evans.
Yeah.
Meaning that Donald Trump is still not setting a foot on Africa. Second term already.
Yeah. At first they had thought they had said they were not going to take part in the G20.
But
then they realized China was going to dominate the event. So they have decided to send their vice president. And when he comes, he will go to Kenya for a state visit for about 4 days.
4 days.
Yeah. So Kenya Biden named them a NATO ally.
Yes.
And then now J.D. Vance is coming to visit them.
Yes.
Remember, Kenya has
Is it a successful route? Would you call it a successful route?
It is a big success for Ruto.
Okay.
Huge.
Okay.
I'm sure he's going to brag amongst his counterparts in the region.
First time in Africa is in Kenya.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
He hasn't been yet to South Africa.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So this is a Kenya that has just become a non-NATO ally. At the same time, a Kenya that is very, very close to China, and they just did a very good deal, I think, for the Kenyan economy. The standard gauge railway.
Close to China, but also owns a lot of money to China.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, is definitely part of the conversation.
Yeah.
The American cannot deny the fact that Kenya is in debt to China.
Yeah, it is. But these loans that Kenya got from China were used to construct the standard gauge railway, which is important to the Kenyan economy.
Very true. Very true.
So in paying back that loan, Kenya will not pay in dollars.
I know that China is looking for gold right now for its de-dollarization agenda.
Yes.
They buy more gold than they've bought in the last 20 years.
Yes.
Does Kenya sell some of the gold of Sudan, some of the gold of Congo to Chinese central bank? Do we have any evidence of that?
We don't have evidence, but it is a high likelihood.
It's a highly likelihood,
because the amounts of gold coming out of some of the East African countries are not equal to the mines.
Yeah, to the productions.
To the production.
But then they would conflict because we just said that Emiratis are interested into the gold of East Africa, and that's also Dubai is the main place.
No, everybody at the moment right now is running after gold.
No,
every central bank in the world is running after gold.
But
that is what makes this region very, very, very important. And East Africa is becoming a center for proxy wars.
Do we see some sort of a new Cold War on the gold, where what we observe is divisions and rebels, as we said in Goma, as we said in El Fasher, as we said also in Tigray? Do we see does that the price of the gold, does it fuel those type of?
We are going to have Cold Wars, mostly economical, but how our presidents play. How our leaders pray, how Ruto is able to go to Beijing and get a deal, and then Washington will matter most.
So I believe also Tshisekedi is doing the same.
Yeah, Tshisekedi is doing the same. He signed a deal with America for the Lobito corridor.
And negotiations for the peace treaty.
Yes, and then after that, he has invited China to construct the biggest industrial complex in Africa.
So industrial complex, if I can just bring the history about that, because I think it's very interesting and audience might not know about that. This is a Chinese success of the 80s.
Yes.
So when Chinese was full-on communist, before Deng Xiaoping took power, they decided to open on the coastline international zone where investment was for free for foreign investors, so they can use the capital of China and especially the workers of China, right?
Cheap workers of China
have been completely successful.
Yes.
Guangzhou, Shanghai, all those places have grown economically so significantly that they become first harbor in the world. But they were first those economic zone. So China came back to Africa with this idea that if you develop such things, international capital will be much more comfortable.
So what happens? Chinese products are being taxed to enter the US.
Okay.
So what China is doing is to produce in other countries. That is why they are coming up with these industrial hubs.
Okay. So you're telling me that my iPhone might end up being built in or some part of my iPhone
Highly likely.
in Congo?
Yeah, in Congo.
So some part of the iPhone will be made in Congo, so China can still get the benefit of selling it to Americans via Congo
Actually,
itself.
it will be sold as a Congolese product, not a Chinese product.
But who's going to get the money from it?
Of course, the money will go back to Beijing.
Of course it will go back to
But we have to look at the smaller jobs that are going to be created.
No, definitely. But also the fraction of the value chain must benefit Africa the way it has benefited Chinese economy. Because for a long time, China was producing the bottom of the value chain production.
You know, Thomas, I'm sort of China leaning.
Yeah, I know you have your
China
Chinese,
China doesn't want to work with a weaker Africa. Why? In the long run, they want a stronger Africa that can really consume what they produce.
Yes.
So they need to empower Africans. And then also, China has opened up its economy to Africa.
Correct.
Today, if you want to sell, let's say, if you make a coat and you want to sell it to China, you don't pay any taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, China has opened up its economy to African products, duty-free at the moment.
Okay.
They want to have that win-win situation.
But is it winning if for our textile industry? Like also Ethiopia has developed a textile industry from Zara, I understand, like a Spanish capital.
So China has standards you have to meet. So long as you meet those standards, you can't sell into their market, into the economy.
Okay.
Africa, that is now where after East African Community, ECOWAS coming.
But
make sure we have proper standards,
yes.
and then we can have economies of scale, produce and feed into their market.
Tell me, what's their plan so we don't end up in another situation where Africa sends rare minerals and China produce it back and send it back and make the value
the plan is to negotiate with Chinese and have more industrial complexes in Africa so that these rare minerals are refined on this continent at least.
At least. Which I think is the agenda of most of the president of the region right now.
Yeah.
Because with the youth that come out, we need those jobs. Okay.
So that is it. That is what is happening in the region. I don't think we have left out anything.
No, definitely.
We have talked about West Africa. Of course, G20 is coming. We shall be talking about.
Shall we be talking about G20?
Yeah. African Union is now a member of the G20, so there are more than 20 countries at the moment, and it is going to be hosted for the first time in South Africa.
Yeah, that's very good. And then they're opening like an inequality commission for the first time. And the next country to take G20 is going to be the US. So it's very significant if we can do some important things before the G20 move to the US. Thank you so much for listening and watching us wherever you are in East Africa or in the rest of the world. Please, if you like the content, follow. Give us your views on what we just spoke about. We like to read your comments. We really appreciate.
We are all
subscribes
on podcasting
YouTube,
platforms,
on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Really, if you don't find us,
AfriPods.
If you don't find us, this is probably because you don't know how to search. That's the only thing I can see.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.